So let's talk about community involvement. I think when you look at planting a church, you have to go into an understanding that this is going to change your life. This is going to be a major thing. And what you are doing is so vital. It's so important. But it's going to take a lot of you. And you're going to have to find a way to connect. How do I connect with the field that God's calling me to? How do I connect with this community? Because at the end of the day, we understand that church really it's made up of people. And so you want people to come. And people have to know who you are. And so you're building equity, you're building trust. So a couple of passages of Scripture in Matthew, actually, where Jesus talks about our mission as believers. Matthew chapter 5, he compares us to being salt and to being light. And what's amazing about being salt and light is it doesn't take a whole lot of salt to impact. It doesn't take a whole lot of salt to influence whatever it comes in contact with. Same thing with light, that really just a little bit of light is enough to dispel darkness. And so let me encourage a church planter that when you start, you're starting small. You're walking into a city. There may be established churches there. There may be some big things already in place. And it feels like, man, I'm starting small. But understand that as a church planter, you're coming in to impact. You're coming in to make a difference. And salt and light are able to do that with just a small quantity. And so you're going to make a difference. But let's be strategic. Let's see how can we maximize our reach. How can I maximize my impact? If I'm going to be salt and light, I want to be effective. Another passage in Matthew chapter 13 where Jesus is teaching about the kingdom of heaven. He's talking about the kingdom, and he gives this parable, and he compares the kingdom of heaven to a man who goes into a field, right, and he finds a treasure that's buried in the field, and what he does is he buries the treasure again, and he goes and he sells everything he has, and notice what he does. He purchases the entire field. So I think what Jesus is doing is Jesus is giving us a very clear picture of church planting in 2022, that we understand that when I go to a community, when I go to a field, that it's the entire field that matters, that I can't go into it with this hyper-focus just on my church and what my activity is, but I want my town, I want my city, I want my area to prosper, I want to be a good neighbor, and so I really want to purchase the entire field. So what does that look like? Well, for a pastor walking into the community, it's you're looking for, how do I connect? How do I meet people? How do I sink roots in this community? There's lots of ways to do that. From my own personal context, I can tell you, as a bivocational church planter, there's been lots of connections made for our church simply from my day job. And as a banker in my town, I've met lots of people, connected with lots of businesses. So if you're working, I would encourage you, if you do have a job, if you're going to be bivocational as a church planter, I would encourage you to find a job that's in your community. Find a job where as close as you can get to where you're pastoring, as close as you can get to your church, so that as you meet people in your place of business, as you meet people in the restaurants around your work or wherever you might be in your community, you're close enough that you feel comfortable inviting somebody to your church and to see what God's doing in that community. Here's the thing. You've got to be authentic, right? Your community has to be able to believe that you care about them. That it's not just about you, it's not just about your church. And so it's understanding from the very beginning that as I come into this community, I'm walking into a place that already has systems and processes. There are boards, there are community efforts, there's grassroots efforts. So how do I assimilate into this culture? How do I join what's already taking place? How can I find my place in what may be a crowded field? And so looking for ways to do that, I'll tell you some of the first things you can do is look to your area chamber of commerce. Very practical here. But every town, almost every town has a chamber of commerce. If the town doesn't, then there'll be an area chamber of commerce. If there's a smaller town, there'll be several grouped together. But a chamber of commerce is a phenomenal chance for you to just show up and start meeting people. The way the chamber works is I can promise you that your chamber is looking for volunteers. They're looking for somebody that just cares about the community. And so someone that gets involved with the chamber, that's what they're communicating. They're communicating, I care about this place, I care about this town, I want to be involved in what's happening, I want to know about what's happening. And so finding that spot to just jump in and get involved. Typically you'll discover that in even large cities, that as you get into it, even large cities have small groups, right? It's the Chamber of Commerce, it's the boards and different nonprofits. It's all these small groups of engaged and involved individuals that are really serving and moving all over the city. And so as you do that, it gives you the chance to connect with people that have equity in your city. It gives you the chance to connect with people that are known in your city. And all of this is adding influence to your church. Now, obviously, we're called to reach for everyone. In fact, the mission of Grace Church at our own personal church is to see to it, Hebrews 12:15, see to it that no one misses the grace of God. And so if our mission is to see to it that no one misses the grace of God, that means we're reaching for those that are down and out. We're reaching for those that don't have anything to bring to the table. We're reaching for those that really they're just lost and they're struggling. They're trying to find their place. I believe that we should be reaching for people like that. But I also am convinced as apostolic church planters that we cannot be intimidated by the moment, right? That we can't reach for the down and outers with ease and then be intimidated to reach for those that have equity, to reach for those that are movers and shakers in your community. And so I think you're healthiest as a church when you are engaged across the board, across the spectrum, and you're truly reaching for everybody. And so I can tell you one of the ways to do that is to join the Chamber of Commerce. It's to find out who are the business owners, who are the business leaders in this community. Typically, a place to serve in a Chamber of Commerce would be as an ambassador. This is a program where typically you're looking for people to show up for ribbon cuttings to welcome new businesses. What a phenomenal opportunity for a church planter. That you're the guy that can go in and celebrate somebody else. It's a lifelong dream for them to own their business. Maybe they just moved to the area. What those people need is a church. What those people need is somebody to believe in them, somebody to come and not ask for a discount, but come and support that local business, to come alongside and be a friend for it. So I'll tell you, in our context as a church planter in Little Elm, Texas, I would tell you that Little Elm knows that Josh Youngblood loves Little Elm, that I love the entire field that God called me to. I want Little Elm to win. I look for ways to serve my community. I look for ways to invest in my community. That means that my dry cleaners is there. That means that the car wash I use is there. It means if I'm looking for a restaurant to go to, I'm trying to go to a restaurant in my community. In fact, our team, they still make fun and laugh, but for the first probably 2.5 years of our church plant journey, we intentionally looked every Sunday as a church. Okay, we're going to go to this restaurant in Little Elm. Let's go there. Let's tip well. Let's clearly be from a church in this community. Let's go in positively. Let's go in looking to impact that place. And so we would go to the same few restaurants every Sunday. What were we doing? We're trying to connect with that community. We're trying to connect in that field. We're trying to bring business to that field. And so it's just one of the ways, and as you do that, all of a sudden you become known. People start recognizing your church. They recognize you as the pastor. And as you serve your community, it's one of the quickest ways in the world for you to build equity with your community. So the Chamber of Commerce, that's one way to get involved. Look for service organizations. This is another great thing you can do. More than likely in your town, there's already organizations, there's already people that have a burden. If I could say it that way, they have a love and a care and they show concern already for your community. So come alongside those people. It's a great thing for you to partner with. You can be an advocate. You can be a neighbor. You can come alongside someone that's already moving. You don't have to invent the wheel. You just have to help push it. And if you can do that, all of a sudden you've got equity. You're able to connect and serve across the board. And I'll tell you one thing that helps. If you can find some of these social services or these organizations that help those that are struggling, those that might need assistance with housing or food or something like that. So then when, as the pastor, and this will happen, when you get the request for financial assistance, when somebody comes to your church and they walk in and you've never seen them before, they've never been to your church, and they come in and they need rent money or they need their lights paid or they need the water turned back on or they need food, one of the things you can do, because you're not set up to meet every need out of your church. But if you are already partnering with some of these social services, if you're partnering with those that help people get back on their feet, those that help people with things like with food or rent assistance or something like that, even if you just give a nominal amount or just help serve, then you're able to say, hey, we're partnering, we're going to be praying for you, absolutely, but I'm also partnering with these organizations in our community. I'd love to connect you with the director of social service. I'd love to connect you with somebody that can help you right now. They've got a whole system in place that I think would be beneficial to you. And what you're doing is you're not pushing them off. You're not declining to help, but you're trying to connect them with somebody that really knows and is set up to handle their situation. So that's one thing to, as far as being involved beyond just Chamber of Commerce, but find someone else that you can serve with. One of the things we've done in our church, we've had Serve Sundays, where we take one Sunday a year, and at our church we call this, instead of coming to church, we're going to be the church. And we find organizations, we find things to do in our community that can make a difference. And so some of the things we've done, we have decided every time we have a Serve Sunday, we're going to go partner with our local Parks and Rec department. We'll clean a park. Everybody's wearing a Grace t-shirt. We're out there doing it. We're picking up trash. It's a way for your church to interact. It's a way for maybe even first-time volunteers have never served anywhere in your church before. This is a place for them to get involved and feel like, man, I'm helping my church. And it slowly is becoming their church. But as we serve, we're picking up trash, we're cleaning the parks and rec. We have decided, every time we do this, we also will take food, we'll take breakfast to our fire stations, we'll take breakfast or goodie baskets to our police department. And what this has done, right, we just decided we're going to serve our community. We're going to show love to first responders. We're going to show love to our town. We're going to find a way to help. But this has opened doors that would not have opened otherwise. It's because we took food, it's because we served the police department that I was able to develop a relationship with our police chief. And it wasn't long before now he's asking me to be the police chaplain. And so as the police chaplain, I'm connected to hurting families in our community. I'm invited to pray over official functions, and I'm invited to be involved in some of these high-level meetings in our community. And all of that stems from just us loving Little Elm. It's us deciding that when we purchase the field, we're not just purchasing the field that we think has the most treasure in it, we're purchasing the entire field. We want to be involved in everything that's taking place. And so serving other people opens up opportunity. I'll never forget one of the first meetings I had in Little Elm. I walked in, I didn't know anybody there. I was invited to join the Rotary Club, or at least to come check out the Rotary Club, which is a service organization. I walked in and I ended up getting set down next to a man who turns out to be a local pastor. He's the head of the Ministerial Alliance. And so as we get to know each other, he discovers I'm here to plant a church. He begins to connect me with people I would not have met otherwise. And in just a few short months, now I'm on a rotation. I'm opening city council meetings with prayer. I'm meeting our city council. I'm meeting our mayor team. I'm meeting those that really have influence in our city. As a result of that strategic meeting, just from being willing to go to a service organization and to find a place to get involved and serve my town, as a result of that, our mayor of Little Elm has been to Grace Church numerous times. When he was elected again, his inaugural meeting, I was asked to pray and open that meeting with prayer and pray over him and his family. He's been to our church. We've had several of our city council members come to Grace Church. They've visited more than once. They've been there. I've had Bible studies with other members of city council. And all of this comes back from you're authentic to who you are. You're buying the entire field. It's a principle from Matthew. I'm going to buy the field. I'm going to serve the field. And God begins to connect you in that community. God gives you favor. Right? We're reaching for those that have nothing, but we're also not going to be worried about those that have a lot. And as you do that, God begins to bring people together. One of the coolest things in the world to watch as a church planter is to watch people connect with the body of Christ. To watch people as it happens in real time, where people are fitly framed together. And these people that would not know each other, they wouldn't even speak to each other, they wouldn't even be in the same room had it not been for your desire to go into that community and plant a church. And then this thing begins to grow, and God begins to add to the church. And before you know it, there's all these pieces that are coming together, and it really is an incredible journey. It's an incredible experience to watch. And so your job as a church planter is to go into your town, to go into that city and look for opportunities. How can I connect? Where are the people? Where are the people? If there's a few events that your town does that everybody comes out for, find a way for your church to get involved. That might mean that you have a booth. It might mean that you pay $50 or $200 and you have a table in place. You've got some giveaways that are branded. It's got your church information on it, or some way for you to connect that event to your church. It's looking for things to serve. How can I serve somebody else? How can I support another local business? How can I support something else in our community? So what you're going to discover is this: when you do what you can do, when you decide to serve, when you decide to get involved, you do what you can do, you'll discover that God will do what you can't. And God's plan for your church is bigger than what you know. God's desire for a church is bigger than yours. And God will do God things, and you're going to see the miraculous in your church plant.